All right. Good afternoon, YouTube, or hello, whatever time of day it is for you. It's time to talk about this beast in today's episode of My History of. All right. So, if you don't know that tune, that is the tune of the almighty Neo Geo AES, Advanced Entertainment System. There's also the MVS, which was kind of the arcade unit. I don't have an MVS, I only have an AES. And there he is right there. I know I say we're going to talk about my friend. This is my bougie friend right here. He's definitely a little more nitpicky than the rest. But anyway, yeah, so today will be the talk of the history, my history with the Neo Geo, as well as job update. Worked on an application this morning, and so that is still in the works. I'm starting to get some replies and some kind of some things in the pipeline going, so that's good on a positive note. Now on to the Neo Geo here. The model I have is actually the US model, and I'll get into when I picked that up and all that sort of stuff. But that is what it is down here, playing Magician Lord, which was my first game. And so I'll talk about that as well. But we'll start with my history of the Neo Geo. Growing up, surprisingly, I did actually hear of it. I remember seeing and reading about it in game magazines that I would look at back in the day, Game Pro and Game Fan and all these different ones. And just mentioned how powerful it was, and that one ad that Joe on GameSack talked about, how it's not a weenie like the other consoles, it's the real hot dog. I love that, by the way. It's just funny. But I never knew anyone that had one. I never saw one, but I knew I had heard of it. We really didn't talk about that much back in the day. Back in the day, it was always Sega, Nintendo, and then as you crept more into the 90s, PlayStation. Neo Geo wasn't really talked about too often, but I did know of it. Memories of it as a kid. I actually do have some memories of the MVS. We used to go to a Pizza Hut that was in Round Rock, that was located across from Round Rock High School back in the day. And they had an MVS unit in there. Now, I didn't know what it was at the time, but I remember it had Metal Slug on it. And I remember seeing Metal Slug for the first time and asking my parents to play it and absolutely loving it. And just every time we'd go to that Pizza Hut, I'd always want to play Metal Slug. And I don't remember which one it was, but I loved that. I remember thinking, like, is this ever going to come out on a game system someday? And I remember one day going to the Pizza Hut and the machine was gone and being so let down. So that's my memory of the Neo Geo from when it was out. I didn't really have any other experience with it till later, again, as kind of YouTube came into fruition and I started seeing YouTubers talk about it. The Neo Geo community is very interesting. It's definitely a lot smaller, I think, than a lot of the other YouTubers. I mean, it's really the Rolls Royce of game collecting. These games are not cheap at all, and I don't even have very many. I think I have a total of 8 games altogether. I pulled them all out because I figured I'd talk about all of them, since the library I didn't have, I have is not too large. And so, with that being said, I'm trying to remember, like, I've watched Neo Ness, because he's trying to get a whole bunch of Neo Geo games, so I enjoy watching his. There's another guy I watched that talks, but I'm going to go back to Happy Console Gamer. Johnny, if you see this video again, I love your Neo Geo videos. I like how you dress up as Terry Bogard, and his passion and his Neo Geo stories. If no one's seen his video about, I want to say it was in Hawaii or 7-Eleven. I know he's talked about different stories playing the Neo Geo MVS, and his story of when he picked up a system and games much later. I want to say it was the late 90s, but I watch all his Neo Geo videos because he's got an experience with it. He's got a nice set of games, and he's real passionate about it. But um, he really got me into the system too. And this system was one of the last systems I picked up. This and one other system, because they were just so out of reach financially in the games that I just could never legitimize it and be like, I'm okay with that. But in the past few years, unfortunately, the job I was let go from, I made decent money. And the PlayStation 5, the Series X, all these consoles were coming out, and I just had no desire to buy Series X or PS5. I guess I'm the guy with the get off my yard guy, but I don't like that games don't come fully on the disc anymore. They require this massive download and tons of storage, and you don't truly own it. I don't like the model of where the gaming industry is going. I still like the Switch because the game is mostly on the card. I know there are exceptions, but so with that being said, I was using my money that I'd buy those for retro systems. And so I remember I'd gotten a large bonus, and finally I was like, I'm going to get a Neo Geo. And so I found one online and I picked it up. And that is it right there. It came with one controller. And I must say, I love this controller. I mean, look at this thing. This is just the most wild, crazy stock OEM controller you could have with your console. I mean, it's a freaking arcade stick. They are a little fragile. These balls start to crack over time, so I don't really play with this too often. I have a second one of these too in here, so I do have two. I literally have the Neo Geo Gold system, which came with two of these. And this is, like I mentioned earlier, a U.S. system. I had chances to get Neo Geos in the past, but they were always the Japanese systems. And I always wanted a U.S. system for a few reasons. One, I read that no matter what region of game you put in it, you'd get English. Now, you do miss some of the blood and some of the, it's censored, but I didn't care. I wanted to be able to understand the story and just everything in the game. The other reason is I've heard these US systems have a really good RGB kind of display. I've heard some Neo Geos can be tricky with that. But finally, this is going to sound stupid, but I was kind of cloud chasing, rarity chasing. These systems are much more valuable than the Japanese systems. And I paid for it. This thing is the most expensive piece of gaming kit I have ever spent money on. It came with, like I said, the controller, all the cables. It actually came with, the guy included an MVS version of Metal Slug as well. I'd have to get a converter if I want to play it, but real nice seller, packed it all up. I can't remember how much I paid, but it wasn't cheap. It was, I'm embarrassed to talk about it, but it was somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000. And like I said, it's the most I've ever spent on anything. I'd gotten a bonus, and I treated myself, But hey, it was a one-time purchase. I have it, and going into Neo Geo, you kind of know what you're getting into with the price of things. Do I regret it now being laid off? No. I could sell it if I really wanted to. I don't intend to unless times get tough, but it's there for that. So yeah, picked up the system, picked up Magician Lord. This was the first game I got, and my goodness, just look at that. This system, I know a lot of people play these on their HD TVs with like FrameMeisters or OSSCs or the RetroTink 4K or 5, I think it's called 5X, all the upscalers. I'm sorry, but this looks gorgeous on a good CRT. Like, I have this hooked up through the HD Retrovision component cables again with the Neo Geo adapter, and I immediately could tell I don't have a Neo Geo with the RGB issues. It is just a beautiful picture quality. Now, this game is really freaking hard, but it is fun. I love it. The music's good. The visuals are good. The gameplay's good. It's definitely an arcade game. Definitely something that you would, play and have to quarter munch for. But I'm happy to have it at home, and complete. Now, I don't really have very many accessories for this thing whatsoever. In fact, I only have one. I believe they call it the Bean controller. And I picked up one of these because I wanted to have something that I could use to play this thing all the time with without risking damaging the nice joysticks. Also, this is something I can put in front of my son or a kid and not worry so much about. Um, this is a pretty durable little stick. And so this is the stick I primarily use, unless we're playing two player or something. Someday I hope to get the pad. So one cool thing about the Neo Geo is the controllers are interchangeable with the Neo Geo CD controllers as well. So you can use those little pads. And someday I hope to get at least one or two of those. Maybe even the Ori joystick. I hear that is really nice. But this is all I have right now. I don't have a memory card yet. I need to get that someday. Um, but let's get into the games. And so again, I'm going to talk about all of them because, with the Neo Geo, you want to talk about favorites and rare. I mean, they're all kind of rare and they're all good for the most part. And so I will get into some of this stuff. And the stuff I'm going to start with, I think, is going to be some interesting and unique stuff. So first, I'm going to start with these four in front here. Breaker's Revenge. Now, this actually never came out on the Neo Geo Aes. This was an MVS exclusive game. But Pixel Heart owns the license, the Visco license, to some various games. So, like, this is number 51 out of 300 copies. And so they have done not SNK official re-releases, but Visco re-releases of some games that we never got on the AES that were MVS only. And so I wanted to pick these. I like these because, don't get me wrong, they cost what Neo Geo games cost back in the day. These are not cheap, but they don't cost as much as like secondhand Neo Geo games. I mean, some of the secondhand Neo Geo games you can get for a decent price, but either way, you're always going to spend a few $100 unless you just come across a deal. But this is a really good game. I remember I spent a whole day watching my son and his half brother just playing the heck out of this game, and I would jump in. We loved this. I highly recommend this. I don't know if Pixel Heart has more up. One thing I do love about this, they ship them in these nice protector cases. They come with the manual. They even come with the box that a Neo Geo MVS game would come in, like the cardboard with the little label on the outside. But I highly recommend this game, and this is just a way to get some games legitimately for much cheaper and some stuff that never came out here. So definitely recommend Breaker's Revenge. Another one on that same sort of kind of the same thing, like with Pixel Heart, is Neo Drift Out, New Technology. Again, same thing. Another game we never got on the AES. It was an MVS exclusive, but Pixel Heart owns Visco, or the license for Visco games. And so they released this, limited release. I got number 46 out of 300 on this one. And so again, just another cool way to get another Neo Geo title with an official Visco release, not SNK release. And I love this game too. This is a really cool looking game. Like, I love these two because they really have that Neo Geo art style. You can see they were made for the system. They're fun. They have good music. Both hard, but once you get them down, like, they're those repeat playthrough games. Perfect Neo Geo games for that kind of thing. Another one I definitely recommend. Again, it's going to cost about the same as much as Breaker, so you're looking at a few $100. This stuff isn't cheap, folks, so just know going in what you're getting into. But that's another one I have here that I really like. All right, let's get into these two here. Vengeance Hunters. This game is actually something you can play. I believe it's on modern systems right now too, but it was developed and made for the Neo Geo. This is a game from the Lewis Studios. It's a beat 'em up. And I don't know if you can see there, it actually looks like a modern game. Like it really does. And you know, I powered this up and played it, and it looks so much like a modern game. It's crazy how much it looks. Um, Nice big manual. And this is a developer that just made this game for the Neo Geo, but then ported it on current systems. But it's a beat 'em up with some like juggling and unique mechanics. You can't play this like a traditional beat 'em up, or eventually you'll start dying. You really have to learn the system and learn the different characters because each character plays completely different from each other. But this is a fun game. Played this with my son, and unfortunately, I only got it a couple months ago. I was really hoping to play this at some tourney nights or with some friends, but just haven't had the chance. But when I, end up getting a new job and I'm able to host some things again, I definitely plan to pull this out and give this a go. Definitely recommend this. Again, not cheap. These Neo Geo games, the cost to create these boards, if they're good, and the cartridge shells and just everything, these are not, they cost money. And so you just gotta accept that. Unfortunately, you can get some cheap Neo Geo stuff, but a lot of the chips aren't well. And there a lot of them are like bootleg stuff from China. Again, this isn't a new release for the system, and this is kind of what I've gotten into actually. While people are buying Series X and PS5 stuff, I'll pick up the random Switch game, but I like to support these new independent Neo Geo developers. Now, if the game looks bad, I won't buy it. This looked incredible, and so I had to pick it up. And that's why I've gotten these Pixel Heart releases and this next release I'm about to talk about as well. Now, if you like shooters, this is a new shmup or shoot 'em up from a company called Full Set. They're actually out of Australia. This is another one I ordered. And this is a shooter, and actually it's the very first Tate shooter for the Neo Geo. There are no Tate, or like Joe from GameSack says, Tate mode shmups on the Neo Geo. This is the first. You guys can't see off camera, but I have a flat screen 1080p LED TV so I have my HD Retrovision cables plugged into a G-Comp switch. Well, the G-Comp switch has two component outputs. One of them actually goes to the flat screen, and I have it on a swivel mount. And so when I have games I want to play in Tate mode, I look over that way, and I would just sit like this, except on my couch playing over here, and you would get the flipped, you'd get the Tate mode form of the game. This game is brutally hard. It is like a bullet hell on the Neo Geo. Love the box art for this game. Again, not cheap at all. Comes with a manual. Came with some other little goodies that I have up in the closet. It actually came with two cart labels. You can choose which label you want. I put this one on there, the one on the front of the box art, because I just wanted it to match, but they actually had another one too. But again, I just love collecting and supporting these people who are making brand new Neo Geo games. I just think that's awesome. I think it's a way to get into the library. Still not cheap. I know I keep mentioning that, but cheaper than some of the insane prices some of the games go for that have been out since the 90s and even 2000s. So love this game. Recommend it if you love shoot 'em ups, but be prepared for a challenge. All right, now we'll get into some of my official releases, after Magician Lord here that I have picked up. First we'll start with, I think I'm going to start with actually my only sports title for the system, unless you count Neo Drift Out, Baseball Stars. I picked this up from a specific gentleman from Classic Game Fest. He sold me TurboGrafx, Master System, Neo Geo, Genesis games. I've mentioned this guy. I wish I knew his name, but I've gotten a lot of cool stuff from him. It's always in good shape. I mean, this thing is in really pristine shape. He had box protectors on it. This is such a fun game of baseball. I'm not a big sports like buyer of games. I definitely have some, but the Neo Geo is the system I'm most interested in for sports games, and this is my first. And again, we just had a day where me, my son, and his brother, we just played the heck out of this, and I was just laughing at them two playing and beating each other, and um, yeah, this game has some good memories attached to it with them. But I hope someday to get Baseball Stars 2. That one looks really awesome, and I think it's Baseball Stars 2020. It's like a futuristic one. Um, but one thing I'll mention is I'm real picky with Neo Geo. I know a lot of people like the dog tags, the American releases. I don't like those dog tags, like labels. So every release I have, none of them have the dog tag. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. They're either the old original label, um, or they have like this style, that kind of red U.S. release, or whatnot. And you'll see it in my other games as well over here. So I'll go ahead and grab Fatal Fury Special next. I mean, come on, what can you say? Terry Bogard. This is a great game. This is such an awesome, fun game. I think I bought this the same time I bought Baseball Stars, actually. In fact, I did. Again, great shape. Got it from the same guy. And these fighters are just so fun to play for this system. And again, I'm going for that same theme. And I can't remember if this is the only way it came out or not. See, the European releases have this gray kind of accent and bar on the end labels. So if a game came out, so also I'm going for US games or European games. Now, if because I think I mentioned this in my Turbo video, I typically like to collect what came out in the US. If it didn't come out here, I'll get it if there's a Japanese variant of it. But I tend to stay in the U.S. box art and European box art, even though if it's going to cost me an arm and a leg, I don't care. That's just kind of what my theme is and what I'm going for. Everybody has their kind of niches and intricacies with these sort of things, and that's mine. But gosh, you can play this in so many different ways, but I definitely recommend this game. Just love it, and hope to get more Fatal Fury games in time. This is the only Fatal Fury. I stand corrected. I do have Mark of the Wolves, but on the Dreamcast. Can't quite get it here. A little out of my price range. Now, the next game I have here is probably my priciest game for the system. Samurai Showdown 2. I think this was like the second game I got for the system after a Magician Lord at Classic Game Fest. Now, what makes this version expensive, because you're probably like, what, why? And I don't think the guy knew what he had. That European box art. The European version, the gray. This is not the US version, the dog tag label. And so I snatched this up quick. And I must say, this is one of my favorite games, if not my favorite for the system. I have the first game on another console that we'll get into when we get to it. This game is beautiful, fun to play, great music. Which, speaking of music, one thing I want to mention actually about, I want to say it's this game, is a lot of the new Neo Geo releases, they tend to use samples. This actually uses the SNK, the Neo Geo sound chip on this console, which is extremely neat. You don't see a lot of that. So if you want to hear the Neo Geo actually working, like its actual sound hardware, this is a good one to see that. But back to this. Yes, I love this game. It's so freaking hard, but so fun to play with friends and just beautiful. And I hope to get more of these, but again, Samurai Showdown 3, 4, and then all versions of 5 are all real expensive for the system. Again, I have the first one, but for a different system, which I'll get into later. But yeah, that about covers all my games I have for this system. I actually have 5 on pre-order. This all happened before I got laid off. Things I pre-ordered last year. So I'm going to name some of those. You guys can go check them out. But again, this is me just supporting new developers of Neo Geo games. Like, to me, that's how I plan to collect Neo Geo mostly. Well, bearing that I get a good paying job again. Otherwise, this is what I'm going to stay with. But I have a game called Gladmort, which should be showing up pretty soon. It's very much a Ghost and Goblins style of game. So if you love that series, check out Gladmort. I know it's probably already out on modern day systems, but it should be shipping soon. Then there's also a game called Shadow Gang Zero. It's a sequel to Shadow Gangs, and I can't remember the developer, but they came out with it a number of years ago. This is like it's a prequel essentially, but it's done in the Neo Geo art style. I think it's actually coming out on Genesis as well. But I'm really looking forward to that, but that's pretty far out. We're probably not looking at getting that one till next year, but I've already signed, seal, delivered on pre-order for that. There's another one that's set to come out later this year called Operation Killmeister. Another sweet looking beat 'em up. Definitely check that out. The art style looks wonderful on that. I'm really looking forward to getting that one. And then the final two I have on pre-order is from Bitmap Bureau. Yes, I have, Final Vendetta, and then their first game. The game that's out on every system. For some reason, it's escaping my mind, but I pre-ordered both. And the other one is sold out now, Final Vendetta. I think they're just waiting. They want to ship them both together to me, but I'm really looking forward to getting both those two. So those I'll probably show off in a future video if I ever, if I start talking about individual games or reviewing games. But that about covers everything I have Neo Geo. And so with that, I think we can get you guys out of here on a little bit of gameplay of Magician Lord. So let's do it. I'll probably die, but let's give it a try. And here we go. And I'm looking forward to that music. Oh, love that music. What's so amazing about this system is, and especially Magician Lord, because this was a launch title, is when I think about if I had seen this at launch, and I know it came out in 1990 technically, but let's be real, I doubt anybody was really getting it till 91 because it came out at the end of 90. Looking at this game, like compared to what was out at the time, because Super Nintendo wasn't out at the beginning of 91, came out later. But even then, like, when you compare this to Genesis, Turbo Graphics, and of course the NES and Master System, but mostly the Turbo Graphics and Genesis, this thing just blows them out of the water. It truly is just a masterpiece of a system, and the price tag, it reflected it. This thing was, I believe it was $650 US on release for the gold system. I know they had some cheaper options as well, but it's just wow. Man, I'm getting caught good here. Got me back in that wizard form again. It's funny, I like the transformations, but I honestly like the way the wizard form looks the best. If we're just going by visuals, I think the wizard form looks so cool. And I think I'm about to get got. Can we get to the end? We'll see. There I go. Alright guys, thanks for joining me for my Neo Geo video. I highly recommend this. There's so many different ways you can play Neo Geo now. The games are online. There are collections. Much cheaper ways. So unless you're a crazy person like me or the dancing Neo Geo guy, I don't know if you guys seen that video. That's a crazy one. He's got all these rare Neo Geo games, but find a way to play these, and we will catch y'all next time.